Hi, welcome to vCloud Director 5.5. My name is Rick Powell, and we're going to cover how to install Windows 2008 R2 Server using vCloud Director 5.5. First, we'll go through the process of uploading Windows 2008 R2 ISO file using vCloud Director. Second, we'll set up the networking in the org VDC, the virtual data center. Next, we'll create the vApp. Then we'll assign the org VDC network to the vApp. And then we'll create a new VM and install Windows 2008 R2. After that, we'll install VMware tools. And last, we'll assign the IP address to the Windows server and then test the network connectivity. Let's go ahead and get started. Here I'm running Chrome, and this is the default login screen for the URL to my vCloud Director login. This is the default interface for vCloud Director, and the first step that we're going to go through is to upload the ISO file for Windows 2008. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click over here under Catalogs, and I first need to create a catalog in order for vCloud to allow me to upload an ISO file too. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this plus sign. I'm just going to give it the catalog name of ISO, and we're just going to put in ISO files, and then click Next. And we're going to leave the default settings here. Click Next. And I'm not going to worry about setting up who can and cannot access this particular catalog. I'm just going to use the default. Click Next. And I'm ready to finish. And now vCloud's created my catalog ISOs. And now with that created, I'm going to come over here to Media and Others. And this is where it's going to give me the opportunity to upload my ISO files. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Upload button. And I'm going to allow that. And at this point, I'm going to click Local Files, Browse. And on my desktop, I have a folder called ISOs, and inside this folder, there is my Windows 2008 R2 ISO. So I'm going to select that and click Open. And I could change the name, give it a description. I'm just going to leave the defaults. And notice down here, it's going to upload into the catalog ISO, and I'm going to go ahead and click Upload. Now that's going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and pause, and we'll come back as soon as this file is done uploading. Now that the ISO file has been uploaded successfully, the next thing is we need to check and make sure the networking is set up for the org VDC. And in order to do that, we're going to come over here to the Administration tab, click there, and then we're going to click here for my particular organization, All Things VMware, so that we can do some administration. And over here, we're going to select the tab Org VDC Networks. As you can see, no networks have been set up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add Network icon. And I'm going to leave the default to create an isolated network within this virtual data center. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And the information here has been provided to me, and I'm just going to go ahead and enter it in. So for this network, the default gateway is 10.123.110.1, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. And I'm going to use 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4 for my DNS, and I'm just going to give a range of IPs out of this /24 that can be used to allocate to my VMs. So I'm going to do 10.123.110.5 through 10.123.110.250. That should be plenty. And again, I'm just defining a range, and even if I just use one IP address, I could have just selected a smaller range. That would have been okay. I just chose a larger range. Click Next. And we're going to give this a network name. We're just going to call this one Outside Network. And we can put in a description if we like, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And we're ready to finish. And at this point, it's going to create my org VDC network. Now that my org VDC network is created, I'm going to make one change to the default setting. And that is, since I'm going to statically assign an IP address to each of my servers, I want to remove the confusion of having a DHCP server on my network. And to do that is I can right-click on my org VDC network, click Configure Services, and right here we have the option to enable or disable, and as you can see it's enabled, so I'm just going to go ahead and deselect it so that it's not going to have a DHCP server on my network, and I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. So now I have my org VDC network created. The next step is to create our vApp, and to do this we're going to click on My Cloud, and you can see over here we have vApps selected, and currently there are no vApps. So we're going to go ahead and create one, and we're not going to create from a catalog, and we're not going to create from an OVF file, which we could do, but we're going to choose this option to build a new vApp. And we're going to give this vApp a new name. We'll just call this one Windows Server. We can give it a description if we like. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. We're going to put it into this particular virtual data center, and we're not going to set any expiration times to this VM. And I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And at this point, I don't have any templates created, or I could select a template, but instead I have this option down here. We're going to create a new VM. And for the virtual machine name, I'm just going to call this one Windows 2008 R2. We can give it a description if we like. We can also alter the name. Let's call this one All Things VMware for the server name, and give it a description if we like. We can set the virtual hardware version. I'm going to leave it as the default of 10. We are going to be doing a Windows installation. And the operating system that we're going to choose from this drop-down list is Windows 2008 R2. And the reason for this is it just sets up different settings for the particular VM that we're getting ready to install. We're going to give it one vCPU, or number of cores per socket 1. We'll leave it at the default of 4 gigs of memory, and we'll leave the default hard disk size as 40 gig. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. And there we've added our virtual machine to this vApp. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. We're going to leave the name as is, and the storage policy, we'll leave it as the default that has been assigned to our virtual data center. Click Next. And here's where we define our network. So I'm going to check this box to show network adapter type. And instead of the E1000 is after I do the installation of Windows 2008 R2, we're going to install VMware Tools, which is going to add the driver for the preferred network device, the VMXNet3. So I'm just going to go ahead and install that and set it up and define it at the beginning. And the network, because we've already defined our org VDC network as outside network, there it is. That's why it shows up here. And I'm going to select that. And static from IP pool, I'm just going to select manual. And I'm going to go ahead and enter the address for my server of 10.123.1110.64. And click Next. And I'm not going to mark this as a fenced vApp network. I'm just going to leave the defaults. Click Next. And I'm ready to review and finish. So I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. All right, now that it's created my VApp and also my VM, and I can see that it's created my VM by one of two ways. One is I can just come down here, click on the VMs link, and it will show me that, oops, let's move this over. It shows me that I've created my VM. The other way is with VApp selected, this is the name of my VApp. I can just click on this link and it will show me the VApp diagram, but I also have the option to select virtual machines that are part of this VApp, and there it is. So what I need to do is I need to assign the ISO file to the CD drive for this particular VM. And in order to do that, I'm going to select the VM, and then I'm going to come up to this icon, Insert CD from Catalog. And because we've uploaded our ISO file into a catalog, there's our ISO file, and I'm going to insert that or associate that with the CD drive for this particular VM. Now that it is associated, now all I have to do is power on this VM, connect to the console, and walk through the Windows installation. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to, with this VM selected, click on the green arrow to power on. I'm going to wait till this changes to a powered on state, and then I'm going to click on this icon, which will open up the console window. Now that it's a powered on state, go ahead and click on that, open up our console window. Going to expand this out. And now we're just going to walk through a typical Windows installation. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next here and go ahead and click on Install Now. We are going to install the standard full installation, so I'm going to go ahead and click Next. I'm going to accept and choose Next. And I'm going to choose Custom. And that's the 40 gig drive that VMware created for me, and I'm going to install onto that. So I'm going to just choose Next. And now it's going to begin the installation. I'm going to let that run for a few minutes until it completes, and we'll come back and pick it up after that's done. Now that Windows has finished its installation, we're going to go ahead and sign the administrator password. All right, there we have it. The next step is we need to install VMware, because as you can see here under network adapters, it doesn't find one even though we selected the VMX Net 3, and that's because it doesn't have the drivers. So let's go ahead and install VMware Tools. So I'm going to jump back to our vCloud Director screen, and with the VM selected, I didn't mean to do that. With that VM selected, I'm going to right click, and you have this option down here, Install VMware Tools. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then I'm going to jump back to my console screen. There we go. So now it's going to start. It's detected the installation for the VMware Tools. I'm going to go ahead and run. And I'm just going to minimize this because the interactive screen is behind this window. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And I'm going to leave it as typical. Click Next and click Install. Now that VMware Tools is installed, for Windows, we're going to go ahead and click Finish, and Windows requires a reboot, so we're going to go ahead and say yes, and it will reboot Windows, and then it should load and detect that we now have a network device. So here, I'm going to go ahead, right up here, we have an icon to send the Control-Alt-Delete sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then right here, I'm going to go ahead and put in the password. And now by default, you can see that it does find a network device, but it's configured for DHCP. So we're going to go ahead and click on Configure Network. We're going to right click here, go down to Properties. We're We're going to double click on TCP version 4, use the following, and the IP address that we're going to give this virtual machine is 10.123.110.64 and 255.25, whoops, there we go, and 255.0, 10.123.110.1, and we're going to give it this for the name server, and click OK, click OK, and now we should have network connectivity. So let's go ahead and bring up a command window, and let's see if we can ping 8.8.8.8, which was one of our name servers. And we can, let's see if name resolution is happening. Let's try to ping yahoo.com, and name resolution is happening as well. That completes the setup and configuration and installation of Windows 2008 R2 using vCloud Director. And as you remember, we went through the process of uploading the ISO file. We made sure that the org VDC network was set up and defined. We created our VApp, and during that process, we created a new VM that we assigned to that VApp. We associated the ISO file to that particular VM, and then we ran through the Windows installation. After that was completed, we needed to install the VMware tools. After VMware tools was installed, we assigned the IP address, and now we have network connectivity. Thank you for watching this video on using vCloud Director 5.5. Thank you.